Hello, I'm Alex Mansfield, the host of Manny Talks Shooting, and welcome to another episode. This is the shooting podcast where I talk to individuals all across the shooting industry. We'll talk competition, self-defense, concealed carry. If you like this content, check out our YouTube channel, Manny Talks Shooting. And without further ado, let's get to this episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Manny Talks Shooting, the shooting podcast on the internet, for you, for me. But it's great, so don't forget to check us out every week, every Monday morning, Eastern Standard Time, 9 a.m., when I release new episodes. But we got to talk about our title sponsor, the best sponsor. Honestly, one of the best people I like to interact with, Bill Duda's company, Go Fast, Don't Suck. They make the awesome banner that's sitting behind me on this side, if you're watching the video version. They make awesome banners. They've got the regular plain vinyl. They've got the see-through. They also make match jerseys. If you've seen my Instagram lately, you will know I got a new jersey for Team FML, my new little local shooting team variant of the Manny Talks Shooting team. So go check out Bill for your dry fire targets, your jerseys, or your match banners if you're a match organizer. Without further, and don't forget, tell him Manny sent you, and move on with your day. Without further ado, we will get to the guest of this show, Mr. Keith Tyler. Keith, how are you doing today, sir?
I am doing well. I'm waving from the black screen.
Right, yeah, so if anyone doesn't know, if you're watching the YouTube version, Keith is having a little bit of video issues, so he's in the black abyss of Tennessee, so that's probably why it doesn't work.
Could be.
I mean, it's okay, but I actually, if anyone is curious to know, I don't know if you're actually any curious, I met Keith down at the Kentucky section match, and I didn't even know who he was, so afterwards I figured out who he was because I saw myself on a video of his on his channel, so that was kind of cool. But for you to know, Keith, I actually saw me in the video when you broke down stage 1 of the Kentucky section match with the bear trap.
Yeah.
I was the lovely CRO on that stage, and
okay.
I got to explain geometry to shooters. It's great.
Yeah, that was a very spicy bear trap.
Yeah, I agree. I did not like it at all. I got a Mike no shoot. I'm not happy.
From timing it, because I had several of my students in our squad, and I just told them, well, as soon as you hit the activator, have a spot picked on the berm, snap your sights there, and start sending 2 rounds before you see the target. Because if you wait to see it, it's going to be too late for that second round.
Yep, I saw sight on brown, and sight went through no shoot. That's not fun. Of course,
2 of our shooters in our squad, including my son, dared to fire a third shot. And of course, that definitely didn't print well.
Yeah, the third shot never helped. Well, some people got very lucky. It's either they sent it over the target, the first one over the target, so then they're hopefully getting 2, but yeah, that bear trap. Leif and his bear traps, that thing was spicy. I was talking to enough range officials who worked a couple of his other matches with it, and he's like, yeah, it's fast.
Very fast. And most of the time, they're not fast.
Yeah, that's actually a bear trap that could possibly trap a bear.
It was fast.
Yeah. But anyway, so people don't know. Keith, people might know you if they're from this area, but who are you and how did you get into shooting?
Well, my name's Keith Tyler. My business is TFI Academy. I first got involved in shooting at a young age. My dad had me pressing triggers when I was a young kid. He was more of a rifle guy. I liked handguns, started shooting handguns, my first pistol was a 5.86 revolver. Then I went to a SIG 226 back in 92. Went to college in 92 and was introduced to Guy Neal, who's an OG of the action pistol world. He actually started at Southwest Pistol League. And they took me shooting to a match one day. And after the match, like, hey, what are you doing for like the rest of your life? And they kept me going in ammo and primers and stuff like that as I went through college and trained me up. And I just had the bug and kept going. Got hired in law enforcement in 97 in Oroville, Washington, middle of nowhere. Didn't make much, so I shot very little and dry fired a lot. Then in 97, I went down to... 99, I went down to Vancouver, Washington, and I worked there for 22 years. And I shot a lot of USPSA down there, speed steel, 3-gun. I mean, if it was action pistol, we were shooting it. Mm-hmm. Got first GM, I think, was 2006. I think I took 12th at 3-gun nationals in 06. Then I had a second kid, and that was the end of 3-gun. Just kept shooting. And I started my own business in 2006. I worked very hard to be a good instructor on the law enforcement side, and some people said, hey, take that knowledge of how to teach and how to break things down and start teaching your own stuff. And I've just continued to develop there. And then as time went on and I started getting older and some injuries from work and whatnot, I couldn't compete at the level I really wanted to. So I put all my energy into how to become a better instructor. A big thing out there with people nowadays is they just want to teach concepts or principles, but they're not teaching fundamentals of actually foundational skills. And that's kind of my forte, is to go into the components of techniques of performance shooting and teach people how to. It applies to all shooting. It doesn't matter if it's LE, self-defense, or USPSA. Performance shooting is performance shooting. I know in our agency in Vancouver, there was a time there where we were teaching all performance, my style of teaching to all the department, and our hit ratio on target for a number of our shootings were 100% for a number of years. So the process works.
Mm-hmm. So at what point did you end up retiring from law enforcement and moving to where you are now?
2 years ago, this month, I retired from law enforcement and fled Washington State to the free state of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. Washington State had passed a bunch of laws that really negatively affected law enforcement, and it was going to make doing my job very difficult the way I'd done it previously. I didn't want to go to prison for just doing my job. Mm-hmm. And I was at the end of my career. I had 24 years in. It was mentally, emotionally, physically. I had enough boo-boos. It was just time to move on and start a new chapter. Mm-hmm. And Washington State, the cost of living is so high right now. We decided to go someplace that matched our politics and everything else a little better, and Tennessee was a good match.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a central location for all of the wonderful things in the shooting realm, it seems like, because it's not very far to get anywhere.
I have realized that when I first moved here. I was amazed at how many majors are within like 8 hours of driving from here. Mm-hmm. That I didn't have that up there where I used to be, because we're in the corner of nowhere.
Well, yeah, and it's a waterfall essentially every time you walk out the house, right? It's always raining.
9 months out of the year, it's water. Yeah.
So most clubs probably invested in waterproof targets.
Once they became around, yeah, we shot a lot with bags on for a lot of years.
Yeah, and I guess that really helps you with your shot calling, I guess, too, because it's definitely not a perfect target when you're shooting at it in the rain.
No, and of course in like Washington, where it's that misty rain, you also have the sun and the glare on the bag. So yeah, shot calling was a big part of what we did up there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is a long and impressive chain of events to becoming where you are now. That's really exciting, actually.
Oh, thank you.
So what made you, on the LE side, what made you decide to get into instruction in the first place?
Because of the lack of instruction we had. That was part of it. I mean, prior to law enforcement, I've been a shooter. I've been shooting USPSA, started in 92, became, I think, official member in 93, 94, mm-hmm. and became an officer in 97. So I'd already been shooting for quite a while. I was already an A or B class shooter when I got hired in law enforcement. I think it was an A class shooter when I got hired in law enforcement. And with all the dogmatic approaches to a lot of the old school instructors, I just saw there had to be better. There's a better way to do this. I mean, we know from our performance shooting, and of course, most of these range masters I dealt with, they were very old school, and they thought competition shooters were just garbage, a bunch of spray and pray. And I would correct them and say, not the guys who win. Mm-hmm. And you try to point out to them who teaches tier 1 operators and has for 30 years. Top level USPSA shooters teach them. We don't teach them tactics. We teach them how to shoot, right? So that's what part of got me involved in wanting to do the instruction. And I had a real good range master, my very first one at Vancouver, who was a little more progressive thinking. And he definitely mentored me along. His name was Doug Rickard. He mentored me along as an instructor and took me under his wing for a lot of years. Got me to some good instructor level classes, got the right books to read. Then I got involved with, in 2016, there was a book that came out called Building Shooters by Dustin Solomon. And it's all about how the brain learns. And we don't always teach the way the brain learns, and that's a problem. And he's since then, I think, written 9 other books. Long story short, I now work for him, mm-hmm. teaching for building shooters. Because one of his employees heard me teach at a summit, and they're like, "Hey, give me your business card. We'd like to talk to you. And of course, then I put the two together and say, hey, I read your book.
Right.
I really like your stuff. He goes, well, I like your stuff. So, no, the teaching stuff, I mean, I took martial arts for a lot of years and I taught as a black belt. I taught. And my emphasis when I was doing martial arts was to become a black belt, we had to be able to teach every technique below where we were at. So to make a yellow belt, you had to be able to teach every white belt technique. Then when you moved up to belts, you had to be able to teach everything below you. So for me, that was a natural progression of being a teacher. When I got into shooting stuff, when I got to a certain level in my shooting, it's like, I need to keep this going by teaching this stuff to people below me. And then as I got better and better, and as I got older, now I'm teaching people equal or above me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is quite impressive, honestly, to be able to, take all that you've known and turn it into, building up better shooters than yourself and, everyone from the novice to, the top level GM.
I've had a lot of fun this last week. Brennan Conaway, who's a super squad guy, we've been practicing like 4 days this week together. And we had a lot of fun just pointing out little things to work on. And it's always a pleasure when I have him out here, or if I get Garen Singleton comes out and trains. These guys are so much better than I am or ever was. And it's neat that they still see value in coming to train with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, this is going to come out after Nationals, but I'm really excited to see what Brennan's going to be able to do this year. With, he started off the season early and strong with the Area 6 win, so...
And then he got a real job.
Yeah.
And he's been so busy flying, he's not been training as nearly as well as he as wanted to. But like I told him, it's the quality of training sometimes is more important than the quantity, and having confidence in your skills.
Yeah.
We had a good week of practice.
That's good. That is always good. And I bet his wallet hurts a little bit from all the ammo he shot.
Yes.
That's always good though. So, I think we were talking in the pre-show a little bit about it, but it was what was when you originally came into the sport, what was your primary division, especially back in 92, 93?
Well, back when I started, everybody shot single stack 1911s, or you shot like a pair of wide body open gun. And that's all there was, because you had two divisions, optics and irons, and shooting limited 10 back then was actually a legit division because everybody shot it, 10-round mags and a 45. And that's where I started. Because I got short fingers and big palms, the single stacks just fit my hand really well. And I enjoyed shooting them. I carried one for work for a lot of years. And that was my primary. It's probably my favorite gun to shoot because it fits my hand.
Right.
And, as I got better and I wanted to play with other divisions, I went to Open because I got sponsored by JPL Precision. And I had tried some open guns before and just couldn't keep them running or didn't like them, but his guns run. And I've stayed with John since then. And we really liked shooting those. I was good with them. So we shot the open gun for quite a few years. And then eventually I went back to single stack for a while because I like it. I was kind of known for that. Won a bunch of championships there. Then I went to the 320. There was a dark time in there where I shot a Glock. It's not that they're a bad gun. They don't fit my hand. Real world example, when I was shooting classifiers with the Glock, my classifiers are right around 65, 70. I went to a 320 that same year, and I'm shooting 90% classifiers. Sometimes it is the gun. So I've been shooting a SIG 320. I tried to carry something similar for work and for competition. So even when I shot open, I shot an open gun, but I also carried a single stack 45 for work. So at least the similar platforms. So when I went to the 320 for competition, I went to the 320 for work. And wasn't too long after, because SIG Electro Optics is just down the road from where I lived in Washington, I started shooting the optics right away. As soon as the carry optics division was around, I was shooting carry optics for work and for competition. And that was definitely my forte for quite a few years. Like right now, I'm getting ready for Open Nationals because it's 4 hours away, and the section offered me a slot. And I'm like, yeah, I'm retired. I'm going. So I've bounced around other divisions. I dabbled in Revolver for a short time. It was fun. I like shooting high cap better.
So you said when eventually you were shooting optics at work, had an optic on your duty gun. How
Yeah.
was the department? How did they adapt that? Were they open to it, or was it really hesitant at the beginning?
Luckily, our cadre was more progressive thinking, and maybe the one guy who was like, I'm not sure. We're all like, this is the future of firearms. This is the future of law enforcement. And you kind of remind him way back in the day when we all had patrol rifles and we wanted to go to a red dot optic. And there was a lot of resistance to that. What are you guys, assassins? It's like, no, it helps us make better use of force decisions because we can have our eyes up looking on target instead of looking at these little bumpy things. So you used to take admin out, have them shoot a qualification with a rifle with iron sights, then have them shoot a qualification with a dot. And of course, the group sizes, there's no comparison, right? They're just so much smaller. And kind of did the same thing with optics on the pistol, saying, hey, we can send somebody in the street that shoots like a shotgun pattern, or we can give them a dot, give them a little training, and suddenly everybody's staying in the 5 ring all day. Which one do you want for liability, Chief?
No, that was an easy answer on that one.
Yeah, and when you start saying the liability and you start pointing out, hey, we know this is going to help the shooters we have that are getting older. Because we had one lieutenant that, God bless him, he was trying to shoot well. He tried on his pistol, he would try all kinds of different sights. I mean, he came out with all kinds of goofy stuff. And if he would have had a dot to where because he couldn't see the sights anymore, right? His close vision was gone unless he tilted his head up and looked out of the bottom of his glasses, and that's not the way you shoot in combat. So if he would have had a dot, it definitely would have prolonged his career because he knew how to press the trigger. He just couldn't see the sights. And then when you start taking the younger officers we were getting, example, I had one student officer. I was asked to go out and teach the recruits. I show up, range master. I ask him for the lesson plan. He goes, no, teach him the way you teach your private classes. I said, you're not going to like the way this looks because it's not law enforcement look, right? He goes, no, I want to see what you're doing, what's so different. So one of my complaints about law enforcement, they spend way too much time on sight picture and stuff like that and not trigger press. So with these students, and 3 of them had never really fired a handgun ever, we spent 200 rounds with no targets downrange to aim because, like Robbie would say, aiming is useless if you can't hold the gun still, right? So we spent almost 200 rounds in a long time of dry fire, no targets, just concentrating conscious mind on trigger press. Then when I put up targets, the one female officer who'd probably never shot before shot an 85% qual her first day after 6 hours of training because she knew how to press the trigger. Aiming the gun's easy. Put the little red dot where you want it to go on the target. Don't tell them to look at it. Like I was always told, front sight, look at your front sight. No, I really need to be looking at the target to make better choices. So we started going to, target focus early. We were even teaching target focus with iron sights at that time because I was able to show how well that works for our style of shooting. Most LE shootings inside 15 yards. Where you can stay target focused and still shoot with relative accuracy.
Yeah, and it's isn't it? It's interesting to see all the things we're able to pull over from performance shooting that now are being adopted into LE law enforcement. Instructional information, and even you teaching that to them, and it seems nowadays that people are now trying to figure out how to shoot target focus with iron sights, at least in competition now.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been pushing that for a while. I had a student, Al Tong, who was a little older, and it was getting harder to focus on the sights like he'd been a competition shooter for probably 20 years. And I said, well, since you're taking my 7-month-long program in your mind and you signed off and paid me, we're going to go to total target focus all the time. And it took him a couple months to get there. But once he got there, he's like, oh my God, this is so much better. I can see so much more what I'm doing. I'm like, yeah, I know. And if he had to make a tough, mini popper at 25 yards or 30 yards because he's at Talladega, then he'd go to front sight focus because it was appropriate. But for most of his shooting, he really taught himself how to shoot target focus. We were primarily doing that at Vancouver before I left. I had Dustin Solomon was out here training with me, and he's never really worked on that before, and he's a very good shooter. And he took my marksmanship class or my surgical speed shooting. And for 600 rounds, he spent the whole day really focusing on target focus. And by the end of the class, he's like, "Yeah, I get it."
Yeah, and that's it's kind of amazing though. After it takes a while, but after a while, it kind of ingrains yourself. Like even myself, like I'm a dot shooter like 99.99% of the time. But when you pick up, you dry fire something else, and you're like, oh, these bumpy things. Oh, I'm gonna look at the target though and see if I can line them up. And then it, for the most part, pretty much works. Now, have you found that people who are mostly iron shooters, if they go dabble with the dot, they're still better with irons when they come back to the irons?
Well, if they were good iron shooters to start with, yeah. It's the biggest hurdle we had to get over when teaching law enforcement is all the old guys were taught the bumpy things only, and they had a real hard time going to target focus. They would try to, of course, focus on the dot, and that doesn't really promote marksmanship very well. You tend to get it all lined up and then go, I want to go now, and you jack the trigger, or you just don't have good trigger press. Everybody has their own way of teaching and doing things. I focus way more on trigger press than I do sights. My personal belief is your brain likes to line stuff up. Once you teach it what it's supposed to see, if you quit concentrating on it, it's going to line it up. And while you're actively aiming, why don't you be actively pressing the trigger at the same time? They don't have to be two mutually exclusive techniques. They actually, if you learn, can really be happening at the same time, and you're going to have speed with accuracy while you make the micro adjustments, as Ron Avery would say, or a lot of people like the Max Michel would say, the floating sight picture, between shots. There's no reason to hold it steady, just aim it.
Right. Now, with people who have like accuracy issues for the most part, is it mostly a trick? Would you find it mostly a trigger issue, or is it more of a grip issue?
Yes, it's both. Because
Right.
a lot of times a really strong grip, a real good grip mechanics can cover up a crappy trigger press.
Mm-hmm.
And likewise, if you have an awesome trigger press where you don't disrupt the sights at all, you can have an awful grip and still get away with it. But if you have a great grip and a great trigger press, you can do accuracy on demand at speed.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I focus on.
Right. And honestly, that's probably it's probably easier to teach those two things than it is about there's never going to be such thing as a perfect sight picture either, because as we were just mentioning, it's like there's never going to be the perfect time, and especially when you're under duress, if it's either in self-defense or competition, you do not have all the time in the world.
No, it was funny. We were practicing one time, and I had my electronic earmuffs on at the range, and the range master at Vancouver's back there with one of the student officers, and like they're watching me shoot, and I'm not shooting 100%, 5 or 10 rings. I'm not shooting, perfect bullseyes. And the student goes, I thought you told me he was good. He goes, yeah, but he has 20 years of just knowing what he needs to see to make an acceptable shot. He's not going to slow down. Because that was the kiss of death. Every once in a while, I try to go play the PCC or PPC game, police pistol combat shooting thing, and it's all slow fire by our standards. And about 4 rounds into the 6-round string, I'm hammered down. I just cannot. Ricky Bobby,
Yeah.
gotta go fast.
Yeah, in the wintertime, it seems like those matches become a little more talked about, at least in our area, where there's like probably 2 or 3 we can go and shoot, but I'm like, I don't want to, like, that just, not that it sounds super boring, it's like, I have to be super accurate, and that's a problem. I like speed.
Well, and yeah, it's definitely an accuracy game. And I used to have a friend of mine who shot that stuff real well on the 1500 courses. He's averaging 1495, and I used to give him a little grief once. I go, dude, come on, a 25-yard bullseye is easy. I mean, that's not that hard. And he started to open his mouth and said, but you do it 25 times in a row, and that's pretty difficult. Yeah, they can definitely do what they do. What's funny, though, is you take those guys and try to put them into our realm of acceptable accuracy at speed, and they have a real hard time doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely apparent sometimes, too, when it's like, they're like, I'm going as fast as I can. I'm like, well, you can go way faster.
Yeah, it's part of it's they don't know what they can do, and they've never taught themselves to visually process and as I call, don't look at the noise. Just look what you have to do and see and feel exactly what you have to. Everything else is visual or noise you don't want to listen to. Just simplify things.
Yeah, absolutely. Simplification makes it a lot easier. There's less things to worry about at that point.
Yes.
So Keith, you're retired. You're teaching. At your lovely range in Tennessee. Your shooting is not probably where you'd want it to be. You're a 2-division GM. What still drives your personal shooting?
Honestly, lately it's been all about teaching. I mean, I've taught 75 classes this year so far,
Oof.
between 25 group classes here at my range in TFI Academy, 25 groups, 18 privates, and I've taught 32 classes for SIG Sauer. So I'm an adjunct instructor for SIG. So I'm always going someplace. Just recently, like preparing for nationals and switching over to open, because people who've never shot open don't understand. Oh yeah, it's got a dot. It's the same as your CO gun. Not even close. The impulse is different. You have to shoot them fast because everybody else has the mechanical advantage. To where CO, my kung fu grip is my master's my advantage, and open everybody's got that. So it's just a different type of thing. I've really enjoyed training with Brennan this last week because it felt good to actually train hard with a training partner for a week. I haven't done that in a long time. I just haven't had time. And
Yeah, you seem very busy now.
I may be retired from law enforcement, but I'm far from retired. Like I say, I work for myself. I have SIG Sauer. I also work for Building Shooters, and Surefire's coming out to talk to me about working for them on the 15th.
Oof.
Yeah.
Too busy. Too busy, you know. I mean, but are you really working a day in your life if you enjoy what you do?
Some days. When it comes, I'll be honest, I like the teaching. That's the one thorn in my butt when it comes to any of the business stuff is I hate the social media stuff. I'm not good with the computers. I don't understand what I should be posting, how I should be posting it to get more business. And to be honest, I don't want to get huge. I just want to grow a little bit more because I want to continue offering my classes where I only have 8 students. That's a max class for me. Every drill I teach, every student gets me in their back pocket at least twice one-on-one. And I don't want to lose that.
Right. So when you have a class of 8, do you probably have 4 on the line at once? And then...
Depends on the drill. Some drills, if they're more complex or we're doing stuff that are very fatiguing, there'll be 4 on the line. You'll shoot your drill, and it's not shooter coach like a lot of the classes do. No, it's the shooters up there, and whoever's not shooting is either stuffing mags, taking notes, visual processing. Close your eyes and think about what you just did. If you did something really good, attach a positive emotional content to that because it embeds better in the brain. But just a very, very methodical learning process. If you're taking the movement class, you hope you're in a group of 8 because that gives you more downtime because that class is a physical killer. But as far as my own training, the hotel dry fire gets old, but I do it. And I try to do, if I'm doing dry fire, 20-minute increments. That's it. But I don't, a lot of people when you see them dry fire and they're standing still the whole time, and you can tell their grip, if they're working on reloads, their grip looks not like their shooting grip, or if they're working on transitions, they'll loosen their grip up. To me, that creates some training scars because you're not training the way you shoot. So if I have we'll call it my master grip. If I have my master grip, every drill I do, I want to have that grip. Strong hand, weak hand, support, strong, however you want to call it. I want to have that same grip every repetition to burn in what's this supposed to feel like. And then have that processing time afterwards. Did I do that? And some things I do in dry fire that are a little different than others. One, I do that. I really try to keep that master grip. Well, after 20 minutes, your forearms are trashed. You can't keep doing that. And I also, one of the biggest things I see guys do, especially the ones that carry concealed or armed professionals, is they'll draw the gun, snap the trigger, go right back to the holster. That creates some very bad training scars.
Oh yeah, I mean it absolutely is. Oh, even watching people on the internet talk. Yes, I agree, and I'm not an instructor.
Yeah, it's just a really bad training scar that I had to get over because no one ever told me not to do it until I had like 20 years in, and somebody goes, "Hey, why are you doing that?" I'm like, "That's a bad habit." They didn't have to tell me it was bad. I knew it was. So I always try to to take the LE thing. Did I hit him? Did it work? Then I'll put it back in the holster. And think about in competition how many times you've come in that last shot and you go, pop, pop, and there's a little break. You go, oh, shoot, pop. Well, if I kept the gun up and was actually actively scanning to make sure I did my job right, that pickup shot would have been 0.5, not 0.25.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you're observing your work on the last target.
So good structured dry fire, and I also do a lot of movement when I dry fire. I see so many folks, uh, everything they do is standing still, and I'll do like 10 static draws, just nice and smooth, and then it's 20 draws moving right, 20 draws moving left, 20 moving forward, 20 moving reverse. Reloads, 10 static, 20 moving right, left, forward, reverse. So, because most of what we do in the sport and in combat is done on the move. If you're standing still in our sport, we're not scoring points, right? Because we have an objective to get someplace else to score points. In the real world, if you stand still, you're going to be a bullet cushion.
Yep.
Got to move.
Oh yeah, you absolutely have to move in. Our sport is all about movement. If you're not moving, you're losing time and you're losing points on your competitor.
I kind of like the jiu-jitsu, and I'm not a jits guy, but I like their thing. Always improve your position. So what are we doing in USPSA? You're always trying to improve your position by either scoring points while you're moving or getting someplace so you can score points. That's the part I don't do as well anymore. I'm just slow. Brennan made sure I knew he was faster than I am by foot this week.
Oh yeah. He probably was like, "Why aren't you keeping up, buddy?"
Yeah, when we started just doing stand and shoots, I showed him why I'm still a GM though.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah. His trigger finger didn't feel so special anymore.
Especially at distance.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, yeah, it's pretty amazing, right? When you're able to have the great equalizer of movement taken away, and you can actually be on equal playing fields with somebody like him. Still got to make you feel good, right?
Oh yeah, no, I've even told my son Joseph, you met Joe at that match. He was shooting.
Yep. I had to question him what the heck was on the back of his Safari Land belt. I'm like, what is this thing?
Oh yeah, the Hiri Pro uses, yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, I've never seen this, and it was just like, okay, it makes sense now.
It's especially for rifle. It's really nice. It's military grade stuff. It's just that battery pack's a little heavy.
Yeah, as soon as he explained it to me what it did, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And I guess it probably balances out the open gun on his hip, so it kind of just keeps him centered. So luckily he can squat low and the battery's on his back.
But I came in after shooting with Brennan and I said, made me feel good. He goes, what? I said, on the stand-in shoots, Brennan and I were shooting 2 different arrays at the same time, just to cut our train time down and not take turns. And the timer, we had 5 rounds if we shot it clean, each of us. The timer half the time was only recording like 5 or 6 rounds. That's how close we were shooting times together. So it should have been recording 10 rounds. It's reporting 5 or 6. So several times we were the exact same. The last shot was fired at the exact same time. So it's like, okay, I can still hang with him when we stand still, but as soon as we start moving, man, these younger guys, like, he's an athlete. I'm not. He can really move.
Yeah, that's for sure. He isn't an athlete, even though if he doesn't think about himself as an athlete. Now, Keith, what is your like? Do you prefer doing private lessons or private one-on-ones, or is it that you love doing the bigger classes?
I like both. From a business standpoint, the 8-person classes are a lot nicer.
Right, yeah, they're a little more economical for you, right?
They are.
Your time. Well, I don't know, because you think about it, you're spending so much time on the range with them, and there's so many people. Your dollar per hour kind of gets a little messed up depending on how many hours you're on the range with them.
Yeah, the privates. I'm not a good businessman. I'm a good instructor, and a number of people who've taken classes from me are like, "Hey, you got to start charging more for your privates." So next year it'll be probably $100 an hour, 4-hour minimum.
It's not bad then.
No, it is still about 125 below what most guys are doing, but I don't have to rent a range. My range is 200 yards from my house, and I enjoy teaching. So I just want people to come out and get better. The group classes, because I only do 8 students, they're almost like a private in a way, because you get the attention, you get the good reps, you get a little more time to learn on your own. Like, a lot of instructors never stop talking. Well, one of the things I've learned on how the brain works, there comes a time when the short-term memory is full, and I need to shut up and let you just naturally process and make sense of what we're teaching. And sometimes in the group classes, that's almost easier because you have a little more personal time. In the private classes, because I want people to get value for their dollar spent, sometimes I have to really monitor myself, making sure I have those alone times where I just shut up and let you learn. I have to stop teaching because if I continue to talk, you're not going to hear anything because that's not the way the short-term memory works.
Mm-hmm.
It just gives me the big finger at some point and says, I'm not listening.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then the brain shuts off and then learning stops. And well, now I guess you probably dealt with this more on the LE side, ego, right? Does it seem like some students that come to you now, do they still have a big ego, or have they been able to check that when they come see you?
Some have a big ego. We all have egos. I
Mm-hmm.
try to check mine when I'm teaching as best I can. I've only had one student came out this last year. It was actually kind of funny. I said, okay, we've been working on the draws. This guy, he's an older guy, but he has incredible hand speed. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he really does. So his draws were pretty damn fast. We just had to get him dialed in on some technique to eliminate, extra movement. So I said, okay, we're going to work on some reloads now. Oh, I got that. I said, really? And I've worked with him enough after a couple hours. I'm like, fine. I want you to point it on that steel. It's 7 yards away. It's a reduced AC.
Mm-hmm.
On the buzzer, I want you to shoot around, reload, and shoot around. We're going to do this 5 times. Don't take your average. Well, his average time was 2.8. I handed him the timer. I said, my turn. My average time was 0.85. I said, now you're ready to learn? He's like, yeah. And that's probably the first time I've had to put somebody in their heels in a private class or one of my TFI classes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I taught LE, I had a reputation to be a good shooter and a good instructor. So most people just, whatever I said was gospel,
Mm-hmm.
unless I went to teach sometimes the SWAT guys because there's a little ego there. I wouldn't even wear a gun when I teach them. If I wanted to do a drill, I'd borrow their gun and draw from my pocket and still beat their times and go, you ready? You know, but once they check their ego, like some of the SWAT team leader guys, they would invite me out to teach because of my pedigree. It's like I've seen you shoot. I want to do what you do because I see value in processing information that fast, so I can make better use of force decisions. I mean, if your gun handling is sharp, crisp, and clear, and you don't have to think about marksmanship, then all your conscious mind has to do is make good use of force decisions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at the end of the day, that's what really matters, about making those decisions,
Yeah.
Feels like makes your liability go down and your paperwork a little bit easier.
Yes, and then when you have to use force, usually way more justified because you made good decisions with a thinking brain, not a reacting brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, we were talking a little bit about your classes, and then I got on the track of ego. But
Yep.
uh, how many students do you feel like you go through in a average, or what last year? How many students do you think you taught for the TFI through the TFI brand?
I don't know. I don't really keep that much track. Most of my one-day classes, what I call my group classes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's back up. I offer one day classes, call those group classes.
Mm-hmm.
I have privates, and then I have the 7-month long shooter development program that we call the Shooter Athlete Program. And that's a 7-month long program. I only take 8 students. Now, if I got more, like if it blew up and I got a bunch of people who wanted to commit to that, I would go as high as 16, but we just do it over 2 different days. I wouldn't do it all the same day. I
Mm-hmm.
used to do 16 when I lived in the West Coast. Every session, that thing would sell out about 6 months in advance, and it's a good program. But the one-day classes, no more than 8 students. This year, I offered a whole bunch of classes because I'm still trying to feel out what people are wanting in this area and what they're willing to drive for.
Mm-hmm.
And so none of my classes were full this year, which was fine. That was kind of pre-planned that way. So next year, because I can't keep holding 25 group classes and having 2-3 people in each one, so I'm going to do less volume of classes, but get the schedule out there and say, hey, if you want to go to this class, this is when it's being offered, and it's only being offered twice this year, not 5 times this year.
Mm-hmm.
So just stuff like that. As far as the brand, I get a lot of privates. Like I said, 18 privates this year. I get one Grace Laster. She's been out here once a month for the last year,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, she went from subterranean D class to high or middle of B class right now in 1 year. She works super hard. Again, if you follow the homework, the process works. She's
Mm-hmm.
doing really well.
Well, and her story is like incredible too. What happened to her, and
Yes,
to come and making a comeback, and enjoying the shooting sports.
yeah, she's a joy to teach. She's such a hard, dedicated worker. asked good questions. Because she's into her grad school stuff's kinesiology, we can speak on a different level than I can with other students on body movement. So, been a lot of fun. Yeah, I couldn't give you a number how many went through this year. If you go to where I used to teach back in Oregon and Washington, the average shooter back there was like a high B A class shooter. And when I was leaving, one of the section officials is like, nobody in the area has done more to create good shooters in our section than you have the last 15 years. And then you look at the the leaderboard, and it's like, good Lord, my guys are still just crushing it back there.
Yeah. And it shows, when you've got good instruction and you're able to take those good compounding principles and you just compound on the knowledge you learn in shooting, and it just goes up and up and up.
And that's kind of what's different. You go to my class, before you come, like, you sign up for one of my classes, about a week and a half, 2 weeks before that class, you're going to get an email with links to my Google Drive giving you homework to do. So we're going to start priming the brain to receive information. When you come to my class, I'm going to give you an exact copy of the lesson plan I'm teaching from with all the drills in it. And that's yours to take home. And I give you a notebook on the side also. So I'm preparing you to go there, learn, take good notes, and then take what you learned there to go home and continue to develop on your own. The vast majority of classes I've ever taken don't do any pre stuff. They don't have you get any handouts. You don't get anything to take home. So if you don't take copious notes, when you leave that class in 3 weeks, what did you actually learn? Nothing, because your brain's not going to remember. That's not the way the brain works. So I try to give you as much information as you can so you can continue your learning and training on the topic that we went over when you leave. And it's worked real well. I mean, it's one of the things, Jack Lantham from Sig Optics, he's a PCC guy. That's one of the things he always says, you actually taught me how to train.
Oh, well, and that's what most people don't understand in this sport is, they go out, they set up a couple pieces of paper and some steel, they just bang away, but they really aren't learning anything, and they aren't really learning the process of how to, like, get feedback and trust themselves and learn to process things and train.
Well, so many people are focused on outcome over process. I don't care about the outcome. If my process is good, outcome takes care of itself. So if you're always just looking at the score, looking at your placement, looking at your percentage of classifiers, that's the wrong thing to be looking at. Be looking at the process of shooting. Is my process good? What can I do better in my process? And focus just on that. Outcome will take care of itself.
Absolutely. Ooh. I can tell it's been a long day. I've already started yawning. But that's okay. So what is do you have like a single giant bay at your private home range, or is it multiple bays, or?
Here at the TFI Academy training facility, we have one big bay. It's about 45 yards deep, 45 yards wide. I got 10 to 15 foot berms all the way around. Got a 20 by 40 structure to get out of the weather. I don't know, 20 walls, poppers, swingers, four swingers, 2 max traps, 2 drop turn. I mean, I have everything you need to put on a good USPSA class of any type. And what it allows me to do is, like my classes, because I got tired of going to classes where you go over everything under the sun in 2 days. And then you leave there and you don't remember anything because none of it had a chance to sink in. My classes are very focused on technique as far as skill sets. Class number 1 is all surgical speed shooting. You got to call it something. It's marksmanship. How do we shoot fast and accurately and start reading the sights? Class 2 is, which it's funny how so many people poo-poo it, but then they go through it and realize how much, I call it the time sucks. It's the draws, the reloads, and the target transitions. All the stuff you cannot score points doing, so you better do it fast and efficient. And then the third class is movement, which is the low-hanging fruit for most shooters, especially newer shooters. If I could teach you to move more efficiently, you're going to be a lot better. You're just entering and exiting, learning how to blend those little things. That class can easily be a 2-day class. Right now it's a 1-day class. Then we have the 4th class is what I call movers and fallers. It's all falling steel, and we shoot swingers. To be honest, in that class, it's swingers, max traps, and drop turners. We spend about 6 hours and probably 600 rounds easy on just the swingers. Because drop turners, once I show you the strategy, they're no challenge. The challenge on a drop turner is how greedy can I get and shoot something else before it disappears? Just like a max trap. Max traps are generally not that spicy. If they're really spicy, we just go to them first. But if you're a good shooter and you get like a full size popper that's a rearward faller, well, I'm going to go get greedy and shoot as much as I can before it exposes.
Oh yeah, or even
You know,
those forward fallers. You could do a lot of damage if it's a forward falling popper.
depending on whose forward faller they are, you're right. I shoot the R&R targets and they have a pretty good lean and they're preloaded forward. So as soon as you even just tap them, they drop pretty darn quick.
Oh yeah, most of the steel I'm used to with these forward fallers, they gotta go back and then they gotta come all the way down.
Oh yeah,
So you're getting all the time in the world.
yeah. And when I'm teaching that class, I tell people, hey, pay attention to what type of faller or plates they're using as activators, because that can really tell you before you even see it move, give you an indication of how much time you're going to have. Mine, they just drop.
Right.
Some of the ones that have to go back and hit the post and come forward, they're slow. Some of the USA targets where they're kind of loaded forward, minor they drop real quick because they barely unhook. Major stands them right up and then they fall. So all those little things, you can't just watch. You see that shooter? See what it did? No, you got to go a little deeper than that. And then my 5th class for the one-day classes is field course, just doing stage planning and execution. And rarely do I have the same stage set up. And I set it up in a way that it's a monster stage that takes up pretty much the whole bay. But within that is probably 5 stages within that big stage. So very little reset time, if any, for students. I don't like taking class time to reset the range for drills. So I try to have a real natural progression. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Absolutely. No, and it's got to make it easy to have, that much space and you're able to do it all in the confines of your property. It makes life a lot easier.
Yeah, it does. And that's why we moved where we did, because other ranges in Tennessee were unwilling to let me continue teaching there. So my wife and I said, fine, we'll just buy property and build our own.
Well, and you're out probably in the middle of, nowhere, Tennessee.
We are.
So it's got to be nice. No one's bothering you. You can do what you want. The worst part is you might have a neighbor who's like, can I come over? Or they're all shooting in their backyards too anyway, so it doesn't matter.
You hear a lot of shooting range. I got one neighbor that's not happy, but I don't think anything would make him happy, so that's okay.
Oh, well, yeah, you're never going to make those people happy. Yeah. Now, I had a question. What was I? Now I lost it, but it's all good. I'm gonna keep rambling until something comes to my brain. But I guess. Oh, this is where I was gonna head. So recently, right before you're going into Open Nationals, you shot Tennessee section. What, 2 weeks ago? A week ago now?
Yes, I did. I flew home from Cleveland, landed at 7:00 at the airport, drove straight out to the match, shot through the match in 98-degree weather and 80% humidity, and then came straight back to my range, set it up, and taught for 5 days. So that was a long week.
Yeah, that is definitely a long week.
Great match though.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask you about that. What you said it was a great match, but what about it made it a great match?
It was a very balanced match as far as the shooting challenge that it presented. And Brent Weeks and I, he's the range master or club director of my local club here in Tennessee. So I talked to him a lot. He had a very balanced match. A lot of guys they were a little grumpy at how much hardcover there was. Well, learn how to shoot. I'm trying to be a jerk, but the hardcover wasn't that challenging. Like it's all at 18, 20 yards, like, Carry Optics Nationals. There were good balances, a balance of speed. There's definitely a balance of footwork. Like some of the stages, there's no way I can keep up with Garen and Brennan. They move so fast. But it required a good amount of different skill sets to score well. And that, to me, it's a good match. I don't like hoser matches, and I don't like matches where you just stand there and shoot the whole time, shoot bullseyes the whole time.
Right. No, I agree with you. And, I don't mind hardcover and no shoots because I guess that's, the club mentality that I came from. Far shots with hardcovers and no shoots, spread throughout the match, throughout the stages, and you just had to balance your risk. Yeah,
that's throttle control, right? And the most challenging shots they had were a tux and 2 mini poppers, I think about 28, 30 yards. And it's not like you put no shoots out there, right? So there's no punishing the shooter. there's just, you could get a miss if you didn't hit the tucks. But the two, having the falling steel, you whack away until you drop it, right? You don't have to walk away with a miss. So I actually liked how a lot of the challenges were kind of like that. There wasn't a ton of no shoots to punish a shooter from a tough shot, but there was hard cover. You could get a miss. You're just not going to get an alpha mic no shoot type thing.
Yeah, it's never gonna get that. Yeah. Now, didn't you also have to battle the weather?
The weather on Friday when I shot was just extremely hot. The Saturday morning crew, they were warm and they ended up, of course, extremely hot. And the ones that had the afternoon, they had a little bit of everything. They had thunderstorms and straight line winds. They had the heat. The heat was brutal that weekend. It was like 97, 98 with high humidity. And for the most part, not a lot of wind. I was teaching on my range that day. I had some students fly from Puerto Rico to come up here and train with me. And they're like, yeah, this heat doesn't bother us. The humidity feels okay, but where's your wind? You know, they're used to the wind down there. But it was just brutal temperatures.
Yeah, that's gotta be unfortunate. That's what I don't care if it's warm or muggy. Just give me a little breeze so I can survive.
Yes. Yeah. My first experience shooting in the South was 2 years ago at Kentucky State. And it was like 86 degrees and like, 75, 80% humidity. I thought I was going to die coming from the Pacific Northwest. Now I'm a little more used to it.
Yeah.
That first year was brutal.
Well, you don't need your raincoat because you're just gonna sweat all the water off, right?
This is true. Someone actually started to pull a raincoat out of the class I was teaching down at my range. And I'm like, it's 85 degrees out here. I don't think you want to put that on.
No.
You're going to be more wet.
Yeah, maybe they wanted to lose some water weight, so they're just gonna put their rain jacket on.
Yeah, trying to drop weight for season coach.
Yeah. Now, but this is being recorded like a couple days right before you leave for nationals. Are you leaving tomorrow or Thursday?
I'm leaving Thursday because it's only a 4-hour drive.
Okay. Now, are you shooting AM, PM, AM, or PM, AM, PM?
I am shooting AM, PM, AM. I prefer to shoot in the mornings, always have. I hate waiting around all day to go shoot. And because I've shot Talladega enough, I know which rotation I like to shoot. If I shoot AM in the middle section, PM in the upper section, AM in section 1 down the lower again, the sun's never in my eyes while I'm shooting all 3 days. So there's a little planning to why I shoot that rotation.
Oh, and then besides the fact you can leave right when you're done and be home before dark.
I could, but the last number of years I've done well enough in the prize table to warrant sticking around. But you are right. If I just left, I'd be home before dark.
Yeah, that's not bad, especially living in Tennessee. It's not the worst drive. It's, like you said, 4 hours.
Yeah, it's 4.5.
You just put on a good long audiobook and just drive on the way home.
That is exactly what I do.
That's the best, one of the best inventions. Podcasts and audiobooks. They can just let the time fly by.
Yeah, with the amount of time I drive back and forth to the airports every month, so I'm 2 hours from any airport. That's what I started doing. It makes that 2 hours go by so quick.
Yeah, that's got to be a big, change for you. Living in the Pacific Northwest, probably not very far from an airport. Now you're, 2 hours from one.
Yeah, when I worked in Vancouver, I was 15, maybe 20 minutes away from Portland Airport. But I'd rather drive 2 hours than be next to Portland.
Oh, that's true. I mean, you could just tell Brennan to pick you up on the way by, right?
Well, I don't think he'd do that. He has that nice Learjet he drives now.
Oh, he's living fancy. Now, just get him to get his old little beater plane out and putz you around. I always remember watching him with his videos of him flying like to nationals or something in his little plane. It's kind of like, well, we're gonna be flying, so it's only gonna take us 2 hours to get to Talladega from there.
Yeah, no, I'm not sure. I think we're driving. We're gonna drive down to IPSC Nationals.
Oh, in Volusia?
Florida. Yeah.
Have you been to that range yet?
I never have. Brennan talked me into going down to shoot that because he's like, well, you shot Carry Optics Nationals. Go down there, shoot production optics, and maybe get some world shoot points and reevaluate for next year. I'm like, okay, because I can shoot senior class. So I don't have to compete against the kids anymore who can just stomp me.
Right. Now, speaking of that, do you have an ambition of going to the world shoot, or is it just something that is a possibility at this point now?
I did have the ambition until I started crunching numbers what it will cost my wife and I to go to Africa for 2 weeks, because I'm going that far. I'm going to do tour stuff.
Well, you might as well. It's no,
Yeah.
you got to make it worth her while.
So she really wants to go because she likes to travel. I'm like, I travel all the time, honey. But we'll see. Yeah, it'd be a nice feather in the cap on a long career.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be a neat opportunity, but we'll have to see if it's financially in the books.
Right. Yeah, that definitely can be challenging, especially since you've got you're gone for that long, so you can't be teaching any classes. But it's just logistical, probably a nightmare too. I don't know. Have you flown out of the country, with firearms before?
I have not. My understanding when there's a world shoot, especially Africa has hosted the world shoot, and they host a lot of big action shooting events because it's one of the few countries you can actually shoot an AR-15 at. I'm gotta believe their process is pretty streamlined.
Yes, I would assume so as well at this point. But yeah, definitely. I agree. I would love to go to the world shoot, but even just a spectator would be awesome. But I know it's not in my cards anytime soon. Everyone needs to start getting older and getting more frail for me to win.
I figure this is probably one of my best opportunities because I'll be one of the young guys in the senior class. Having said that, Shannon Smith I think will be old enough to make senior if he wants to go CO, and so does Mike Seeklander. Well, I did edge Shannon for Carry Optics Nationals, but I mean he's a great shooter, and so is Mike Seeklander. I don't think I've ever beat Mike ever. So if they wanted to put a beating on me, they can.
Right? Yeah, and they definitely could. I lost where I was going to go with that, so I'm just going to keep going, moving on past it because I forgot what I was going to say. But it's all good. Do you ever feel that your match preparation suffers being an instructor?
Absolutely. Yeah, without a doubt. I put more focus on my students because I know, especially nowadays, I'm not LE anymore, so I can't compete for the LE title at the major, like nationals. Anytime there was an LE trophy at the other area one and stuff, unless there was a bunch of guys to compete against, I didn't put much stock in that. Nationals, there's some great LE shooters, so that's a good one to walk away from. But I'm not going to win anything. I got to compete. I'm not a senior. I'm not going to win a category. And the other guys are just really, really good. So I put most of my focus into my students I know who are preparing for matches. Or we try to squad with students. Like at Nationals this year for Open here in a couple days, 2 of my Oregon students are in my squad and 2 of my Tennessee students are in my squad. So I'll shoot my best match I can, but I'm going to be more focused on helping them shoot well.
Yeah, that's impressive. It's remarkable. It speaks on your coaching ability and your dedication to your students there. But when you said you're leaving Thursday,
Yes.
are you only gonna then walk the stages for your Friday morning, then on Thursday, and then walk the rest of them each next day prior to shooting them?
Well, what experience has taught me at Talladega is I'll definitely go look at the first section, the middle section that I shoot on first day. And we start on Saturday morning or Saturday afternoon. My first stage will be that 25-yard standards. So I already know what that stage is going to look like. So that's easy there. But I will spend some time looking at day 1 and day 2 a lot. And kind of get those burned in. I'm going to take my time, be very methodical. I'll probably take lunch with me, just take my time watching things. Last time I was at Talladega, I didn't study enough, and I wish I would have. Because nowadays, when you have these 12, 14-person squads, and they're giving you 3 or 4 minutes to walk a stage, if it's a complex stage, if you don't go walk the day before, you're going to be lost. You're not going to be able to optimize your stage plan. You'll be looking for places to move to where the guys who've been studying are looking, how do I blend that position, not just how I get there, right? And start to shave those seconds off of positions from not posting up. So I'll go and start off on Friday or Thursday. I'll get it there early. Definitely spend the time that I feel I need for the middle section that I shoot first. And then try to spend some time up on the last section. And then I'll go back and look again at the middle section where I'm starting at on Friday. After I get done shooting on Saturday or Friday, I'll again look at what I'm going to shoot at. but it's kind of hard. You don't have much time to look at stuff because the other squads who are coming in to rotate to shoot, I don't want to be that jackass getting in their way, right? Because they're the ones getting ready to shoot.
Right.
You have about 45 minutes where you have free time to go there. So learning that, I want to make sure I get my work done the day before, and remember, okay, what do I need to come back and work on? After shooting the afternoon session on Saturday, you usually don't have a ton of time before they throw you off the range. So you need to get down and look at the 1 through 6 or 1 through 8, whatever it is down there. 1 through 6, I think it is. And then, because I'm an early riser, I'll be on the range about 6:30 on Sunday. And that's when I really walk them, because from 6:30 to about 7:30, I'm the only person out there, which is nice because I don't have to be tripping over people.
Right. That's definitely nice. Yeah, you can go at your own pace. You can just, the only people who's going to be there is range staff probably at that point.
Yes.
Yeah, that definitely helps. You can get your reps in. You can tweak your spots. You can find what you need to look for and blend, and no one to worry about.
Yeah, because usually by that point I've seen them. I've already counseled with other people to figure out, ideas, and it's just trying to burn things in. And because of experience, I don't usually need as much time to burn things in.
Right. Yeah. It's like that coach's eye. Like, all right, you're going here. It kind of locks it in a little bit faster because you have to.
Yes.
Speaking of that, locking it in. Do you? I know this is. I probably know your answer, but I'll let you answer it anyway. How important it is for you to demo everything to your students?
Very. One, it shows them what's possible. Shows them I can do it. I'm not just blowing smoke.
Right.
But I think it's important that you be able to demo everything you're teaching. There's some, like if I'm doing rifle, there's a couple positional shooting things that I have a hard time getting into due to some injuries. And I just tell them, hey, this is how you do it. I'll do the best I can, but we'll go through it slower. But with handgun, yeah, you need to be able to demo everything to the students multiple times. It's not the watch Keith shoot show. I'll demo it maybe twice, and then it's up to them. I'll ask them, does someone need to see it again from a different angle, so they can walk around the other side, and then I'll demo it again. But I think it's very important for instructors to demo because it's hitting that visual learning processing. It's showing them what it looks like, and sometimes someone will say, well, how fast were you going? I said, that was 80%. That was what I can do 100% all the time, every minute, every time, every rep. And they'll say, well, show me 95. Okay. So now they see it done faster. They say, okay, that can be done that fast. And I'm not trying to brag. There's guys that can do it faster, but a lot of people have no idea what they can do because they've never tried or have never been pushed to know what's possible. I had I had a MARSOC guy come and train with me or go to a match with me one time. He was a new officer. And after the match, I said, how'd you like it? He goes, this is awesome. He likes to shoot. This is great. This is fun. He goes, but I had no idea people could do that with a handgun.
Yeah.
And this is a tier 1 guy because all they did was rifles. He's like, man, you guys can run a handgun. And I'm embarrassed that I saw a 14-year-old girl kick my ass.
Right. Wait, he was at Steel Challenge?
Yeah.
No, I mean, but yeah, there's definitely 14-year-old girls kicking butt.
Well, look at Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, what,
Please.
16, 17 now, sponsored by Glock, world champion? I mean...
Yeah, she's a machine.
Yeah, very impressive, that's for sure. Well, even the Williams sisters, now that they're adults, I mean, but still, they're still kicking grown men's butts.
The one I thought was really impressive, well, the junior titles or whatever, but when Justine took second last year at PCC Nationals, that is impressive because there's a lot of really big, beefy guys that move really fast at the top of that division.
Yeah, like, not that I've got her counted out. I hope she can do it again, but it's kind of hard to vote against some of those guys shooting that. Although I made a prediction last week, and then I said that Max Leograndis was not going to win. So I'm hoping I get proven wrong, but, I mean...
That's a bold prediction.
Yeah. Well, I know he's probably still shooting, but I don't see him post much about shooting. He's been shooting a lot of pistol this year, so because he's been shooting that Voodoo Priest. He's been shooting that 2011 limited optics gun.
Okay.
So I don't know. I've seen some people like Josh Freilich. You can never count him out. Like 2 years ago, or 3 years now, like 21 nationals. He was beating Max until he had his accidental discharge and he got sent home. So that's
Those guys, the speed that they push those, I can't see fast enough to do what they do.
Yeah, I'm finally getting there with the vision. Like I just shot a club match on Sunday, and I was like, "What? I can push 13, 14 splits, and now I'm seeing where shots are going." Like, ooh.
It's kind of cool when it works.
Yeah, it's like the eyes in the gun are finally keeping up, and it's like, or it's one of those things. I see exactly how little I need to see to be like, okay, alpha close Charlie, or 2 alpha, alpha close Charlie. We're like, it's a partial. Like we can accept, a Charlie here. I mean, major scoring if you're going fast enough, Charlies are okay.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that right there was my big learning curve from CO to open. Yeah, they both have dots, but they react completely different under recoil, and they move differently, and you kind of get used to the slower reciprocating slide and of the CO, and the dot comes right back where I want it. But to where the open gun, it doesn't actually leave the glass at all, and it just vibrates. It moves real quick, and you have to be very comfortable with that sight movement, or take Dramamine, one of the two. But you have to be very comfortable with that and know where you're shooting in that process. Because I'm not Christian. Christian and I have talked, both from the Pacific Northwest. What he sees during the arc of recoil, the average person doesn't. He sees such a crisp dot moving around. Most of us see a streak of a red dot.
Yeah. That's why he's a world champion.
Well, I often tell people that's the pros, the guys at that level, they're different. So quit trying to compare yourself to them. Often students will go, well, Nils did this or Max did this. It's like, do you have their skill set, their equipment, and their experience? Well, no. Then quit trying to compare yourself to them.
Right, yeah. Like I was very I'll share this story, but I was very happy with my performance at an area match this year. Aaron Edmonds was shooting against another top national contender, Andrew Hyder, and they were shooting for the open title at Area 5. And it was very nice to see, okay, I fall within my classification percentage very well, like in the high end, compared to a national champion. So I'm like, I must be doing something right here. And I don't, that's always...
When you can go to a major and shoot your percentage, that's pretty awesome, because that's not normal.
Yeah.
So it's not. People ask me all the time, well, especially back in Oregon, you're really good. Well, I am. What's your goal for nationals? Top 40 and hopefully shoot above 80% of the match winner. And like 80%, I said, you don't understand. Like one match where I was really crunching numbers. This is back when Max was on top for open. And Max Michel has never beat me in CO or carry optics on points. He beats me 2.5 seconds every stage, and that's usually an ass kicking by the end of 20 stages. But on points, that's what I do. That's what I'm known for. I know how fast I can go, and I just try to collect points.
Yeah, the points collection is definitely the points. It's that hit factor math. It's the points in time, they will get you every single time.
Yeah, and of course, the game is faster now than it's ever been. In the past, we used to have a lot more lower hit factor stages to where my style of shooting is rewarded a lot more. But with the speed, and let's just face it, the guys are better shooters. Prime example of the classifier system, moving up. I shot in 06 El Presidente in 4.7 down 3 Charlie, and that was like 110%. My son shot that exact same score 4 years ago. We're thinking it's going to be a GM score. Nope, it was a 93. I mean, that's how much the goalposts have moved up. So I do like, sometimes I think they move the goalposts a little too far, but I do like that they move them, unlike IDPA where you have just a dumpster full of masterclass shooters, but there is a big range from between the top of that masterclass to the bottom of masterclass because they don't change anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's if you make it, you make it, and it seems like there's a lot of B-class USPSA shooters who are master IDPA shooters.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, I have one that came to me and he's, Keith, I can shoot real accurate. I said, well, obviously you're a 5-division master in IDPA. You know how to press the trigger. I had a little 4-position field course set up. And from each position, I said, I want you to engage 1 steel from each position because I knew his movement was going to be a weak link. And I said, okay, you have 3 minutes to come up with your stage plan. He looked at me and goes, what stage plan? You just told me what to do. Okay. So we went through and taught him the fundamentals of movement and then revisited that same stage. I said, okay, you have 3 minutes to come your stage plan. This time he goes down there and starts working exactly how feet place. How does he enter to set up the exit he needs for the desired shots he needs to make? He dropped 3.5 seconds off of a 4-position, 4-target stage.
That's impressive.
That is very impressive because he took what he learned and just applied it. And he's like in his mid-60s. But he's got a heart of a competitor.
And it's still good to see people out there shooting like that, right?
Oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, I wish I had family member. I wish I had found the sport sooner so I could got more family members into it. But they have egos too, and they don't believe that. It's funny enough as my aunt is talking to me now. She's like, "Oh, you're really good with guns," and I post up my videos on my social media, and she's like, "You really need to help me figure out this gun that I'm having issues with." I'm like, "All right, I'll help you out, but just because I can pull the trigger fast doesn't mean I'm an engineer."
Yeah, a lot of people, you talk to anybody who works in a gun shop, don't always buy the right gun in the first place. Grace works at Glock store, and how many big burly guys come in to buy the girlfriend the gun, and they want to buy the subcompact that you and I are like, no, you don't. No, you don't. You may like it until you press the trigger once, then you'll realize that's not good.
Yeah, you might like carrying it, but that's about it.
Yeah, my wife, she used to shoot USPSA for a lot of years, and all she knows is 1911 style guns. She wanted a carry gun when we moved to Tennessee because I travel a lot. I said, fine, I'll get you, this compact or full size gun. No, I want the 938 SIG because she knows I get a good price. And I'm like, no, you don't. No, I want that. I said, no, you really don't want that. And when she says she wants it the third time, you know what I did? I bought it because I'm her husband. And we get it home. She shoots a magazine through it. She goes, I don't like that. I said, I told you wouldn't like this. It's just, they're a subcompact gun and they're not fun to shoot.
Yeah.
Then I give her the 365 and she's like, I like that a lot better. I said, I know. It fills the hand up better.
Yeah. But no, they don't want to listen sometimes.
Whatever you say, dear. If you're happy, I'm happy.
Right? Yep. As long as I'm not having to go buy you another, like I have to sell this gun to get you another.
That's what I just put money down on, a 229 Legion single action only.
Oh, there you go.
That'll be fun to shoot.
Absolutely. Well, Keith, we're near the end of our show. I've got a couple more questions for you. And
Fire away.
This is the part of the show, I guess, where I like to pay back to the people who help support you. So this is the part where you can plug your partners or sponsors that you may have.
Shameless plugs. I love it.
Yep.
Well, I got a number of JPL Precision. Used to build all my open guns. He's quit building full-size guns and just does piecework now. But he is awesome out of Redmond, Washington. R&R Targets out of Scioto, Oregon. I think builds the best poppers and swingers. The swingers don't slow down. They go and go. Some of our local clubs have started buying them, and people are like, I wish you would not have introduced them. Hunter's HD Gold. Brian, he's just a saint in the sport. He takes care of a lot of people. He's taking care of me and my students. He actually helps support the shooter-athlete program. Springer Precision has been with me for over 20 years. I've known Scott personally for a long time and makes great products, always taking care of shooters. Katanica. Most people out here are familiar with Katanica because they can't afford it. Very, very nice clothes for shooting and tactical work, and mountaineering is their big thing. Their jackets, shorts, shirts, pants, just really well thought out and laid out, how the pockets, size, depth, location, just really nice stuff. SIG Electro-Optics has been taking care of me for a long time. Before I even worked for SIG, they've been helping me out and supporting me and supporting the shooter-athlete program. They get a discount in there. They've been helping me out a lot. Sporting Systems, which is a gun shop, high-end gun shop in Vancouver, Washington, and their sister company, Minuteman Ammo. They helped me out with getting components so I can keep reloading. When everybody else couldn't find any, at least I can find some. It was nice. Yeah. I'm sure I forgot somebody because I'm a retard, but...
It's all good, right? We always can't remember everything exactly.
No,
right?
I cannot.
Well, that's cool. So, guys, if you're listening to this, go check out these companies. See if you can go support them. Everyone knows you like everyone likes SIG Optics, so they can go buy a Romeo at Max XL3, whatever they call it now.
Oh, they got some new stuff coming out.
Yeah, they've got the SIG
You get the
Romeo
Romeo
2.
X, you get the Romeo 2, which I think is probably one of the most durable law enforcement optics. You can go enclosed or you can go, canopy off and go wide open. After shooting my gun for the first time ever in a true downpour, and I actually got water into the emitter, I now see the true reason why LE should be all enclosed emitters. But they also have the Romeo X coming out. Really durable. The price point's about $350. I think it's a real winner. It's just very durable, tough looking optic. I like the glass. Of course, the glass has always been really clear. I have some vision issues, so I pick up on anomalies in glass real quick. And with the lack of all the coatings on the front of the lens, yes, battery life is not quite as long, but it doesn't change my downrange view when I pull it up to the target. And that's where some of them that have all the coatings, if you have color vision issues, you pull that optic up and suddenly your target looks a completely different color. And you're like, what?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and just think about it. You should always be carrying spare batteries anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I know for a while there in the LE side, there's like we want battery life. We want to be able to replace the batteries once a year at qualifications. Well, one, they shouldn't be qualifying once a year, but, and everybody was chasing the coatings on these lenses, but the dots started getting more deformed. The color started getting so jacked up, and Sig finally just took a step back, and I was part of the T&E process. So was Young Lee, and we're like, real LE guys don't care about the battery life. They want to have a good dot. Just like competition shooters. I grew up shooting Seymours. You had to change a battery once a month with those things sometimes if you were shooting in bright sunshine.
Oh, yeah, with the diodes and you crank it up. Yep.
Yeah, they eat batteries. I know Joseph, my son, shot a junior camp in Idaho. It was so darn bright, he was going through basically a battery a day because he had it all the way up for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's a true test of battery life right there.
Yeah.
But yep, Keith. But I guess this is the part. If people want to get a hold of you, they want to take a class, they want to talk training, they want to meet you. Where's the best place for them to do that?
Multiple ways. TFIacademy.net is my website. Of course, there's contact information on there. They can also go to on Instagram TFI_Academy. On on Facebook, you got Tyler Firearms Instruction. That's what the TFI stands for. And that's about it for social media. Oh, YouTube. I have TFI Academy on YouTube. That's where I post all my nuggets of knowledge, little breakdowns of either stages, matches, or I also have another segment I call Timers and Targets, where I don't care about your preference of techniques. Timers and targets don't lie. Let's find out how they match up. And suddenly you start to realize a lot of times these arguments are really stupid.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice to see that you do put it on the timer and the target to actually show what it is.
That's what I really enjoy about what I call performance shooting, what we do, versus the tactical world. Tactical world, they would argue I picked up my coffee cup here a minute ago the wrong way. But we just look at timer and targets. What's best?
Yep.
If it's fast, efficient, and scores well, by God, let's do that. And if there's no difference between the two techniques, by gosh, do what best suits you.
100%. Definitely agree on that one. But Keith, man, I appreciate you sitting down with me and chit chat, and this has actually been a really fun one. I learned a lot actually, and I enjoyed it quite well. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on. It's been a great conversation, and get out here and train.
Yeah, exactly. Now, Keith, good luck at Nationals. I know this is coming out afterwards, but you good luck, brother. And to the listeners, get out and do the things, and I will see you on the next one.